The Arc subclasses are the weakest, assuming you aren't playing Hunter. Prismatic brought to light how a lack of cohesion with the kit can work so long as the individual abilities are all still strong. All of the mono-chromatic classes focus heavily on individual cohesion and select a handful of verbs. Arc wants to focus on being within melee range, and we need only to ask the Titans why that focus tends to suffer in the current sandbox. Even if we did want to build around Arc's aggressive playstyle, Strand often does Arc's job but better. Better damage, better survivability, and better overall verbs. Void gets access to Devour, Invis, and Overshield for buffs, then Volatile, Weaken, and Suppression for debuffs. Solar gets Restoration, Cure, and Radiant for buffs, then Scorch and Ignition for debuffs. Strand gets Woven Mail, Threadlings for buffs, then Unravel, Suspend, and Sever for debuffs. And then Arc has Amplified and Speed Boost for buffs, and then Jolt and Blind for debuffs. Although Speed Boost and Amplified are two sides of the same coin, so it's more like 1.5 buffs and 2 debuffs, but Blind is an extremely underperforming debuff compared to the other counterparts as well. Most of their individual supers for Arc are strong, but not strong enough to justify their pick by themselves either. The only class that isn't hampered by these limitations that Arc presents is Arc Hunter, evidenced by their still lingering presence in pick rates. This then leaves the Arc subclass kits for Warlock and Titan being consistently the least picked light-based subclasses, being the poster child of all these problems. But I think Bungie is about to update the Arc subclasses. Quietly, it seems they've been testing some updates to this element with the artifact for quite some time. For the last year of the artifact's perks options, it has played around with potentially a new subclass verb for Arc to better round out its kit. But what would it take for this underperforming class to see use cases again, and what went wrong in its original designs? Arc as a subclass is extremely easy to understand. Every fragment and aspect encourages you to play fast and aggressively. It is the risk-reward subclass, which, in theory, should be the best play style in the game for high-end play because better players can minimize risk and maximize rewards. But in practice, the rewards for Arc's close quarter playstyle is rarely worth its unbelievable risk. The situation gets worse when we look at the stats for usage rates on all supers. The original 3 Arc supers, Stormtrance, Fist of Havoc, and Arc Staff, make up less than 0.5% for usage rates in all PvE content. This is unbelievably low. To put it in perspective, you are more likely to get an exotic to drop from you from a dungeon, a raid, or whatever, twice at the same time than you are to see one of these supers being used randomly in an activity. Arc is bad. Its supers are lackluster and its aspects are hardly worthwhile. Arc Hunter seems to break this mold. But how? Undoubtedly, it's partially due to its fun factor, sure, but if I know Destiny players, it's that optimal beats fun every single time. Arc Hunter's kits are well defined and supported by their other abilities. Gambler's Dodge and Combination Blow alone make up the majority of the Arc Hunter's neutral game, and Gathering Storm provides an excellent out-of-box choice for supers. Its power is further enhanced by its aspects. Lethal Current, Flow State, and even Tempest Strike all better bolster the already solid foundation that the Hunter has. Ascension may not be the strongest overall, but it still provides a utility and a bit more fun factor. Fragments given by the Arc subclasses naturally fit into the Arc Hunter's playstyle, and its exotics are extremely powerful without being an absolute necessity to make them function. Simply put, Arc Hunter starts off strong and then gets stronger with better build crafting. There are underperforming picks and Disorientating Blow and Arc Staff, sure, but they don't bring down the kit overall, being that these are options, not necessities. Arc Hunter has tools to take advantage of Arc's Amplified, Speed Boost, and Jolt while lowering the inherent issues with being a close the gap playstyle. Compare this to Arc Warlock. Arc Warlock's melees, Chain Lightning, and Ball Lightning are strong, but they aren't nearly as build defining like Combination Blow. The rifts don't play into their kits, and their supers are some of the worst the game has to offer, with Chaos Reach being at best a mid-tier damage contender, but only if you really build into it. Their aspects are incredibly easy to use, sure, but offer practically no reward for using them. Arc Souls are alright, but only mildly increase the overall damage and add no major increase in utility. Lightning Surge is extremely fun, but also extremely risky. Not to mention, this aspect is just simply better on Prismatic because you get 3 of them. Electrostatic Mind is solid overall, but while Ionic Traces are great, Amplified is kind of a forgettable buff in PvE and PvP at base. Arc Titans share the same story. Knockout is practically a must pick for aspects, being that Juggernaut is essentially useless in PvE. Touch of Thunder is alright, but has almost no synergy with the rest of the Arc Titans kits and fragments. Thunder Crash is the only viable super option, but unless you're using Curse of the Falling Star, its damage is comparatively low for the price of, again, getting within melee range. Unlike Arc Hunters, the Arc Titans and Arc Warlocks do not offer a strong enough base kit that ends up being further enhanced by its aspects, fragments, and exotics. Instead, Titans and Warlocks are required to devote their entire loadout to even have a chance of breaking even. But the issues don't just end with these two classes. Amplified is, as we've mentioned, an almost meaningless buff. Every class can get it, which severely hurts its class identity, and it provides the negligible benefit of having faster weapon speeds and movement speed. Aspects such as Flow State on Hunter augment the Amplified buff to more completely allow it to actually compete as a worthwhile buff, but again, that requires an aspect to be viable at all. But we can't just straight buff Amplified because of how easy it is to get in the first place, like we mentioned. Imagine if it gave a damage buff to all weapons while you had it. As cool as that would sound, this would effectively translate to all Arc subclasses always having bonus damages, because all it takes to receive Amplified, even ignoring aspects, is just an Arc multi-kill, which is not hard to do in PvE. Speed Boost is another verb from the Arc subclass technically, although somebody should probably tell the rest of the fragments and aspects, because nothing in the game even remotely makes use of it, outside of just simply sprinting. Jolt is fantastic, but so is Volatile and Ignitions, which operate very similarly. When a player breaks down the pros and the cons of the Arc subclasses, they are left asking why they didn't just choose Void or Solar. They offer similar tools with better survivability, supers, crowd control, and support. Arc struggles to offer things unique outside of its unremarkable speed boost. Many of the fragments and abilities grant damage resistances such as Spark Resistance and Juggernaut, and piecewise health regeneration like Knockout and Combination Blow. But because there are no ways to build into these buffs in any meaningful way, you can't make them as a powerful survivability tool that is offered by things like Restoration and Cure on Solar, Devour on Void, Wolf of Mail on Strand, or even Frost Armor on Stasis. There are a lot of excellent individual choices for Arc weapons and Arc exotic armors, just like the other classes for their specific verbs. But it might just be me, but these often feel like good exotics in spite of their Arc flavor, not because of it. And even if they are uniquely Arc synergistic, they often feel like they are trying to pull the weight of the entire subclass. In other words, on other subclasses, your exotic is chosen because of your subclass. But for Arc, your subclass is chosen because of your exotic. So, Arc is left with one viable choice in Hunter, with much of that viability being built from Combination Blow mixed with Gambler's Dodge and a solid one-and-done super. Titans have partially viable kits, but are extremely pigeonholed into only a small handful of loadouts, most of which operate nearly identically to the last, and all of which require the encounter to allow melees. Warlock can spam abilities well enough, but these abilities are often disappointing, with both Titans and Warlocks practically requiring powerful exotics to even compete for a mid-tier placement in the meta. Arc needs a facelift, and I think Bungie already knows it. Let's look back at our list of subclass verbs. If we were to categorize each verb according to what they do, we can see an interesting pattern emerge. Devour, Cure, and Frost Armor are healing-based verbs. Volatile Ignition, Jolt, Shatter, and Unravel are AoE damage-based verbs. Void Overshield, Restoration, Frost Armor, again, and Woven Mail are survivability-based verbs. Weaken, Scorch, Slow, and Sever are debuff-based verbs. Invisibility, Radiance, and Amplified are utility-based verbs. Then Suppression, Blinding, Freeze, and Suspend are crowd control-based verbs. While not every class needs to have a representative in each of these categories, the light-based subclasses are likely as strong and as used as they are because of how good of a representative they have in the healing and survivability categories, something Arc is completely absent in. Speed Boost should show up here, technically, as unbeknownst to most players, it does provide a trivial 15% damage resist when active. Amplified in terms of utility buffs is the weakest in the game, being only usable because of how Arc structures abilities to give you benefit while you have it. No matter how you cut it, Arc doesn't have a large enough of a footprint to make it worthwhile. It needs survivability to both make up for its aggressive playstyle as well as being able to keep up with the other light subclass verbs. But here's the thing. Bungie has been playing around with Amplified granting damage resist in the form of artifact mods for a long time. I'm willing to bet they're going to release this as a full-fledged Arc verb to increase Arc's current 3.5-ish verb count to the more standard 4 or 5. How? I have an idea. This is Galvanized. Galvanized could be a new verb added to Arc that would massively mitigate both its identity problems between Arc Titans, Arc Hunters, and Arc Warlocks, as well as create new ways to play aggressively like Arc wants to. Galvanized grants damage resistance and healing while dealing damage or scoring kills. This damage resistance can stack up to 5 times, granting 10% per stack in PvE and 3% in PvP. The healing it provides operates like volatile in that it will grant a reward after dealing a certain amount of damage while you have the buff, or outright giving it to you if you score a kill. If this sort of sounds familiar, we've got similar things like this right now in the artifact mod called Galvanic Armor, which grants you damage resistance while you're amplified. But this as a unique perk has its own benefits. The health gained is already present on both Combination Blow and Knockout. Because this new version of health regen is a direct verb, however, exotics, fragments, and aspects can better build around it. Not to mention, this would make the Arc playstyles far more user-friendly in CQC because of its periodic health regen during damage, which doesn't require a kill to trigger. For the 3 classes, this new verb would be heavily Titan flavored. But what about Amplified? This underperforming utility buff needs a facelift as well, probably a total rework. Remove Amplified on double kills. This allows more design space for the verb because if every class has super easy access to it, we can't make it strong enough to make it worthwhile. Allow Amplified on top of its speed boost to now reduce enemy targeting accuracy. This is an idea we already have with stuff like Stompies and Manticore, so this doesn't require any new code from Bungie, but would massively increase Amplified's usability as a generic verb. If this were applied to Amplified, this would better create the too fast to punish fantasy the Arc subclasses are going for. By changing Amplified in this way, the Arc Hunter being the king of Amplified suddenly makes so much sense. But Arc Warlock and Titans can still benefit from this new tool as well. Now that we have laid some groundwork, let's modify some existing aspects to support them, starting with the Titans. Knockout is a fantastic and basically a must-pick aspect for the class. With Galvanic, we can lean into this fantasy even better without really sacrificing anything of the current playstyle. Change Knockout to instead grant Galvanic on kills instead of Amplified. Now, Titans have increased survivability at the small cost of losing easy access to Amplified. But we'll touch on this later. Just hold it with me for just a moment, all right? Don't leave the angry comments quite yet. Change Juggernaut to grant extended galvanic duration, as well as grant knockback resistance while galvanized. This now gives more ways of closing the gap against stomp mechanics, opening this aspect to be the king of sword and shotgun loadouts, of which Arc is clearly going for. Touch of Thunder really is more of a Warlock thing in my biased Warlock opinion, but it's fine where it is without changes. Lastly, add a new aspect, maybe call it inverted polarity, which causes enemies to be knocked back whenever you use your class ability. And this also causes kills on blinded targets to grant an ionic trace. This new aspect allows for the ability looping and crowd control that the Titans need, and the Titans have been really lacking on Arc for quite a while. Buff Fist of Havoc to have a longer duration and just more damage while galvanic. Buff Thunder Crash to have increased damage the longer it travels. Don't worry, we'll be touching Curse of the Falling Star in just a bit. Lastly, add a new super which operates like Banner of War or Song of Flame on Warlock, but more offensive. We'll call it Rolling Thunder. When active, you and nearby allies gain galvanic and massively have increased reload speeds and handling to arc and kinetic weapons. Targets that venture too close are blinded and shocked. This gives Titans not only another support option for their entire class, but also a non-melee option for their arc supers. But you can still kind of get close to targets and have it work. Let this have a fast cooldown as well. Buff thrusters to grant amplified while dodging near enemies, and let it cool down faster while you're galvanic. And last, for Titan specific buff Ballistic Slam to grant you galvanic when you strike a target with it. Next, onto Warlocks. Arc Souls are lackluster. Update this to allow Arc Souls to cause a jolting or blinding explosion while amplified. This both helps with champions as well as making this a much better pick for crowd control. Lightning Surge is a fun aspect that will get better with the context of the updates that these others will provide, hopefully giving it a reason to be run on Arc instead of just Prismatic. Electrostatic Bind is fine as is, but maybe have it grant Galvanic from Ionic Traces while your super is fully charged, and encouraging some new options for these fast charging supers. And lastly, of course, let's bring it up to par with Arc Hunter and give it a new aspect called Inverted Magnetism. You deal increased damage to blinded or jolted targets while you have amplified or galvanic. This increase would be 25%, similar to Radiant. This idea came from Altheo on our live stream, and it is such a cool idea that has beautiful flavor for Warlocks. Another terrific idea we saw from our live stream was to change Ball Lightning to hang in place while amplified, shocking all targets that venture too close, sort of like a small Tesla coil turret. We also threw around the idea of a new Arc Warlock class ability that creates 2 teleport points when touched, but that might be a bit much to throw in right now. Buff Storm Trance to cause more damage overall and remove its cost for blinking, or at the very least make the blink cause a blinding AoE. Buff Chaos Reach to operate like it does with Geomag Stabilizers by default. Again, we'll talk about the exotics by themselves in just a bit. And add a new super called Bolt from the Blue. This works like Silence and Squall, where you cast energy into a particular area, but in this case it would be 3 thunderstorms in an area if you're choosing. These thunderstorms jolt and blind targets in the area for a short duration, or they can be fired at a single point to combine into a massive thunderstorm that lasts much longer. These storms would not wander like Silence and Squall, however. Hunters. Your class overall is pretty good, and you have 4 aspects already. Let's update a few small things though. First off, change Combination Blow to, instead of granting health back, it would grant Galvanic. It would be functionally identical to its current playstyle, but to keep this slightly more in check because of this damage reduction buff that it would receive, reduce the speed at which it regenerates your class ability, similar to how the Solar Titan's throwing hammer works when you pick it back up. This puts a slight pause on the Hunter shenanigans with a better overall trade-off in my opinion. Buff Disorientating Blow to have a slightly faster cooldown, but this will get significantly better due to Amplified being harder to acquire. For aspects, the only thing I see being worthwhile here is dodging while amplified granting Galvanic for flow state. For supers, a simple increase to the overall damage for Arc Staff would do wonders. Make this good at killing champions and mini bosses. That would be great. All right, now that we've updated and better defined the Arc subclass identity and introduced some more tools with verbs, we also need to go through and update some fragments, grenades, and exotics. Let's just machine gun the fragments for the sake of time. Spark of Haste. Lower its bonuses for resilience, mobility, and recovery from 3 tiers to 2 tiers, but let it grant these bonuses immediately and permanently while amplified. Beacons, unchanged. Resistance, this now grants galvanic when damaging enemies and while you are surrounded, effectively keeping its previous functionality with some better synergy overall. Momentum, unchanged. Shock, unchanged. Combine Spark of Ions and Spark of Discharge into one fragment, so thus it now reads, defeating targets has a chance to create Ionic Trace. This chance is guaranteed if the target is jolted. Reduce the cooldown to compensate for this. Discharge, change this to read, picking up an Ionic Trace or an Orb of Power causes your next arc weapon shot to cause jolt. Frequency, keep its base functionality and add that melee kills grant a small portion of melee energy. Recharge, change its functionality to grant grenade and melee recharge while galvanized instead of being at critical health. As an aside, I hope you can see that a lot of these fragment changes are meant to target Titan's troubles with ability looping on Arc and PvE. Magnitude, unchanged. Amplitude, unchanged. Brilliance, this feels like this was added because they are trying to fill space. Change this to instead read, kills on blinded targets grant melee energy. In total, melee should come up significantly faster on Arc without needing to rely on combination blow. Galvanic is accessible through fragments, but still best source on Titan for a clear role and identity on the team. A good portion of these changes also made Ionic Traces more available and worthwhile so long as you build around them. I also want to update Arc Bolts, Skip Grenades, and Flux Grenades to cause Jolt intrinsically, as these are some of the most lackluster grenades in the game for PvE and arguably for PvP. This also makes the Hunter's piss poor Arc Grenade exotics much better. Let's actually talk about Arc exotics right now. Insurmountable Skull Fort, keep its base functionality, but add that melee kills grant Amplified. If you love that speed boost from Amplified, this gives you a way to get it back, and this also makes it more worthwhile in high-end content where this currently suffers greatly. Blight Ranger, we talked about this idea in the Prismatic video, but blinking jolts nearby targets. Keep all other functionality. This makes it into effectively the Astrocyte verse for hunters. Crown of Tempest works fine enough and will be better when Arc gets better. The same goes for Fallen Sunstar. Eternal Warrior, increase the damage of the Fist of Havoc per stack of galvanic armor you have. Keep its other functionality. Point of Contact is already good, but will be better when Arc gets better. Getaways are suddenly really cool for Warlock. Keep this as is. Liar's Handshake, this can now possibly grant stacks of galvanic on kills and remove its health bump intrinsically, being that that's already what galvanic does. Shinobu's Vow will be better when the grenades cause jolt by default. Gift of Conviction is already pretty good, and we can exchange its generic resistance for galvanic for better synergies. Curse of the Falling Star, being that we made T-Crash already have this exotic's damage effect, change this to read that you will regenerate super energy based on how long it takes you to reach the target, allowing you to use T-Crash more often for crowd control. Lucky Raspberry, again, this will be better because the grenades that it's trying to use will jolt by default, but also let this create Ionic Traces on Arc Bolt hits, making this significantly more usable. Raiju's is a pointless exotic, I think. Add to this that hits with Tempest Strike refund a portion of melee energy for a bit of neutral game synergy. Raiden Flux will be better when the Arc Staff gets better. Vesper is great and won't need anything. Storm Dancer's Brace will be better when Storm Trance gets better itself, but also make this work with the new Bolt from the Blue Super for added spice. Dune Marchers, we covered this in our Titan video, but let these cause jolt. Geomags, keep its base functionality with Ionic Traces, but because we moved its duration increase to the base Chaos Reach mechanics, also give this galvanic when picking up Ionic Traces. MK44s are just a worse Peregrine Greaves, and even though this isn't an Arc-specific exotic, I felt the need to bully it. Simply let this regen melee energy while sprinting, while keeping its other functionality. Lastly, for the armor, Gemini Jesters. Let this exotic cause an actual Arc Blind for better utility and better synergy. Are you still with me? Good. Weapons. Most everything specific to Arc is unchanged, except for a few. Trespasser, keep its current functionality, but let kills immediately grant Amplified. Amplified is now impossible to get on multi-kills, so this will feel a lot more build defining. Risk Runner, taking Arc damage now grants Galvanic instead of just generic damage resistance. While Galvanic, this weapon chains lightning to nearby enemies and loads from the magazine, basically what it already does. Prospector isn't an Arc weapon per se, but an idea for a rework from Mark. was that this creates more glimmer on kills, and after enough glimmer is gathered, this will gain a shot of ammo. Shout out to Mark Viol and Uwa, by the way, for the background footage that you're seeing. They were very helpful for this last minute stuff. Crane Breakers is useful in high-end PvE content, but I feel like we could move this to the energy slot and it would be fine. Darcy, either move to the energy slot or let it stun any champion you lock onto for long enough. World Line Zero would be a legendary sword in today's meta. Change this to allow its Tesseract perk to continuously chain, assuming you're able to continue to score kills. Okay, what do you think of my suggestions? Let me know by either liking, subscribing, or letting me know where I dropped the ball somewhere in the comments. Bless your faces, and deuces.